Hi, I'm Miss Howard, and this is take 3 of this chapter. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time with this chapter. Anyways, this says we came back from the Twits. We just got done watching Mrs. Twit float nicely down from the sky where we all thought she was going to die. She floated nicely down from the calm, windy, windless sky and attacked Mr. Twit over and over and over again with her chain. Remember that? Okay, that's where we are so far in the plot. And this whole time we've been watching little things happen, like with the beer. She secretly puts an eye on the beer, and we wait. And the climax, the big important part, the rising action, is whenever Mr. Twit sees the eye, and he's like, oh! And she's like, ha ha ha, I've got my eye on you. And that's the falling action of that chapter. And all these chapters have had a little bit of beginning, rise, climax, and fall. Now, this is the start of a chapter where we're having a longer plot, which means that we're going to have some rising action, some information background before we finally get to a climax somewhere in the middle to the end. And then at the end, we'll have falling action again. And all of this is the last big one of this book. And so this is a very important chapter, but let's talk about it before we get to any of that. The house, the chapter, we look at the chapter's title because it gives us comprehension. It helps our comprehension by helping us connect our ideas from our schema to what we already know from what we've read or what's happened in our own life. For instance, the house. I live in a house. You live in a house, maybe an apartment, maybe you have a shelter. We all have a shelter. Anyways, so this house, now I'm going to assume they're talking about the Twits' house. We've been all up in the Twins' house. We've been in their bedroom. We've been in their kitchen. The tree, I don't know what tree they're talking about. I have trees in my backyard. I can connect to that idea, but I don't think they're talking about that tree, but I know what a tree is in my mind. And a monkey cage. Now, there you go. I don't have a clue what they're talking about with a monkey cage, and I doubt that anybody listening has a monkey cage in their backyard either, or in their front yard or anywhere. But I'm sure maybe you've seen one at a zoo or something, so you kind of can picture what a monkey cage is. But anyways, we know that the plot of this chapter, or something about this chapter, is going to have to do with the house, the tree, and the monkey cage. In my head, I think they're going to introduce us to all these things or tell us more about them so that we get a better layout of the land. Okay, now, before we start reading, we've looked at the title to get ourselves a little bit of a schema, and now we are going to go through the chapter and see if there are any pictures. Now, I've already been through this chapter several times, and I know that there's only one picture, and it's an important picture, and so I printed it out. And so, here is the picture that's in that chapter. See? This is a better one, though. I wanted you guys to be able to see it up close because it's got a lot of important detail. So here's what I think is the Twits' house because there's a chimney on it. And I think that's a doorway. And then there's some kind of little shed here. And then in the front here, in the front ground, the foreground, there is some kind of garden with a bunch of plants in it. And then there is a cage with 4 animals in it. I think those are the monkeys because I can see they have curlicue tails. Comes down in like a circle. And then here I see a ladder. Is it a ladder? I see a ladder going up into some kind of big sticky thing, which I assume is a tree. Now, this doesn't look like any kind of tree that I would see. And if there are that many weeds growing, then obviously it's got to be summertime or some kind of hot season. But why does this tree look like it was made out of popsicle sticks? So I wonder those things as I get started on this chapter. Okay, so now we've reviewed the title and we've reviewed the picture. We can go ahead and read the story. I can try to leave this up here. The house, the tree, and the monkey cage. But that's enough of that. We can't go on forever watching these 2 disgusting people doing disgusting things to each other. We must get ahead with the story. Here is a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Twit's house and garden. Some house! It looks like a prison. And not windows anywhere. Who wants windows? Mr. Twit had said when they were building it. Who wants every Tom, Dick, and Harry peeping in to see what you're doing? It didn't occur to Mr. Twit that windows were meant mainly for looking out of and not for looking into. And what do you think of the ghastly garden? Mrs. Twit was the gardener. She was very good at growing thistles and stinging nettles. I always grow plenty of spiky thistles and plenty of stinging nettles, she used to say. They keep out nasty, nosy little children. Near the house, you can see Mr. Twit's workshed. To one side, there is the big dead tree. So it's dead. That's why it looks like that. It never has any leaves on it because it's dead. And not far from the tree, you can see the monkey cage. There's the monkey cage. There are 4 monkeys in it. They belong to Mr. Twit. You will hear about them later. Okay, so that's the whole chapter. It's a short one. Now, there were some words in there that I didn't think you guys would know what they meant. They're stinging nettles and spiky thistles is what she plants in her garden. But they gave us a context clue about what kind of plants these are. Because when she says, spiky thistles and plenty of stinging nettles, they keep out nasty, nosy little children. Okay. So we know that they're not fruit trees, they're not flowers, they're not anything that a little kid would want to come and see. They're not anything that would attract a child into their yard. And so I'll tell you what they are. They're stinging. I bet that doesn't sound like something you want to touch, huh? Stinging, like a stinging bee. It's a stinging nettle, which means that it's a sticker that stings. And spiky thistle is also a kind of sticker. Now, a thistle, if you think about like a pine tree, you know how the pine needles look? That's kind of like how a thistle looks. Okay. And then the other word I was thinking about that maybe we needed some help with was ghastly. Ghastly, which means it's really, really awful. It's something sinister, scary, not great looking. Something negative. Okay. And so we end up the chapter there. Now, we all know that disgusting means really gross, but I'm still going to put that in the vocabulary. And so next we'll find out, to the next chapter we'll head and we'll see what happens there, or what we get to find out.